This is Pat Coakley, and it is June 30th, 2020. And what is that strange sound you heard in place of the sneaky mischief music that you are used to hearing for Art of the Diet? Well, that new doorbell is the sound of my new broadcast. And the new broadcast is going to be called Voices from My Bunker. And it's going to be an interview show. 30 minutes, generally. Me interviewing people of all ages. Now, I used to do some interviews with Art of the Diet. Some of you will remember them as some of the ones you enjoyed the most. And I myself refer to some of those past interviews as a treasure trove of things to remind me of what I might need to do to tweak my weight management plan or reinvigorate it or do something. But the big change is, and why it's requiring a whole new name, is that it's no longer just going to be focused on weight management. I find that 11 years of doing this and focusing in on this specific topic has been very helpful to me and to others too, I feel. But I feel that 2020 has just kicked me in the you-know-where, and while weight management is certainly a part of 2020, as we'll talk about, it is not my single focus any longer. So I thought, what can I do to not listen to my own voice 24/7 and perhaps open up the world for me and for any of my listeners? So I thought, well, let me interview as many people who are willing to be interviewed, and let me share their stories of how 2020 has been for them so far. That's why I give you the date that we're starting, because we're halfway through and it has been literally like an earthquake, has upended us all. And all of us have a story to tell. And I'm going to try to ask what that story is, what it's been like, what you're looking forward to, what you wish you knew then but know now, all of the stuff. So it's going to be interview based. I think I'm going to do it regularly, like weekly, but at the same time, it may be more than that, it may be less. But it's not going to be just about food and managing food. So I wanted to give you a heads up to anybody who listens specifically for that topic. I would say to you that the archives that will remain part of this podcast and on artofthediet.com are a treasure trove of different subjects and different tips and techniques and rants and raves. So that is always there. And I also want to address, most of you know that my political leanings and who I think are the worst of humanity, and I think we've also seen the best of humanity in this first 6 months of 2020 as well. But I'm going to tell you, this is not going to be a political podcast. If you want to tap into some of those opinions that I certainly have, the patcoakley.com website will have some of that. This is going to be just about how we got through these damn 6 months. each in our own way. And what we're looking out the window and trying to cobble together for the next 6 months. I can commit to doing these podcasts, interviews regularly, as long as my supply of interviewees doesn't run out, and up until November 3rd, 2020. Because I know unless I get COVID or something else, I'll be above ground up until November 30th. If he gets reelected, just look for my obit, okay? So I'm committing to that. November 3rd, 2020, I'm going to be uploading new interviews. I've done several so far, ranging in age from a 27-year-old health worker in Boston during this past spring, which, as many of you know, Boston, Massachusetts, was a very serious hotspot for COVID. Although, thankfully, because we've got an adult in the room regulating our state, we're on the downward slope of this. So hopefully we've got it under control. But she, for example, was going to work at 8 a.m. on a weekday in an empty city bus. She's, of course, masked. The driver is masked, and there's nobody else in the bus but this girl. So she's got a very compelling story. I interviewed a woman who underwent and is still undergoing chemo treatments all throughout this. I interviewed a woman who's been married for 53 years, and she talked about how she's getting through this unique time. I also talked to a former colleague of mine who is on dialysis twice a week throughout a pandemic. So I'm trying to share with you ordinary people that actually have sort of extraordinary stories. Because one thing I feel for sure, all of us, if we're above ground on June 30th, 2020, we sort of have an extraordinary story to tell. Even if it's just about how we got to the grocery store. Everything that was once taken for granted now is an event. So I hope you're going to enjoy this. I wanted to give you a heads up so that you could recognize that the next interview that's coming your way, which is going to be tomorrow, I'm going to post the first new episode. And that interview will actually be a bridge between the Art of the Diet and the Voices from My Bunker, because it's going to be somebody that I actually interviewed years ago on the Art of the Diet, who's been maintaining a significant weight loss for 11 or 12 years. But I'm going to be re-interviewing her about how she's dealt with 2020. So I thought it would be a great bridge between the Art of the Diet podcast and the new one, Voices from My Bunker. And just a word about the podcast art that is new. This was a family gathering summers ago, back in the days when hands were just fun things to put in paint and then leave our individual mark on a canvas. And I had done it and had it hanging in my living room for years, and was looking at it during the depths of this in April and May, and thought, there's such joy there. There's such individuality in each of those hands and the color. And yet, play is still possible if we stay creative. And so that's why I chose it as my logo, because I really do think of this venture as being at play in dangerous times. And I'm hoping folks like you will tell your stories. I'll try to listen. We'll laugh. I bet our eyes will roll. I know we'll cry. We'll do a lot of sighing, but we'll go on. So I hope you join me. Thanks for all my listeners for all these many years. Believe you me, the weight management struggle continues to go on.